Good morning. Maybe sometimes we can have so little desires, we can reject our desires so aggressively like that they become aversions. That the desires become aversions. And sometimes maybe I just have to stand back from our life and find balance. And that's what I did yesterday. I stood back from my life looking for balance and starting with my concept of love. And I finally defined it. I finally defined it. It's nobody touch me and we'll all be grand. And this is an aversion. And if you ask yourself, why is it an aversion? Well, it's really like all your aversions. Well, my aversions come from, I don't want anything that can be taken away. But this is a fear of suffering. Now, this fear of suffering doesn't cause me any suffering, but maybe I have to ask the question, does it inhibit my life? And maybe it does. Maybe it does, and maybe I need to address it. And as Keen Egan says, when you start to unpack this, you start to find all sorts of things that you didn't even realise were in the box. Like, all sorts of things. Like you have to be able to enjoy a cold drink without expecting the moment to last forever. So yesterday was just an exercise in just sit and listen. And you're here now. And what you have now. And when it's gone, you accept this with equanimity. But you don't cling to anything, overly attached to anything. But you can still, maybe there's no need to make it into an aversion. Maybe, as I say, the whole thing is just stand back from your life and find balance. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like sometimes, as Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. But then it all depends on how you use that dark side, And then sometimes, I always very much against positive thinking philosophy, because I say positive thinking philosophy is bullshit, because all you do is you just mask over other thoughts, but you're not actually addressing the thoughts, you're not dealing with the thoughts, you're not facing the thoughts, you're just masking over them. And maybe I'm doing the complete opposite when I actually open the box and have a look. Maybe I'm doing the complete opposite. Maybe I take the dark side, for example, maybe I'd rather think about Joseph Mengele all day, or the Ugandan dictator than anything else. And maybe I'm using it to mask over other thoughts. So it's a sort of a reverse. But instead of positive thinking philosophy, it's actually the direct opposite. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's something I can consider. Because I remember it was I met this German girl, and every time she used to sit down to talk to me, I used to talk about the ambiguities of war. Until she used to get up and run off. But this, and I did this every time she sat down. But this is aversion. Do you know what I mean? This is aversion. And as I say, maybe you just need to sit down and stand back from your life and find balance. Because maybe I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was talking about change and not wanting to change. And the whole thing, like I make no secret of it, I enjoy altered states. I do enjoy altered states, and it's not escapism, but well, I enjoy altered states because they're conducive to philosophy, but I will sit and write philosophy all day. But this is like Van Gogh, an artist. Like I watched a video yesterday on absolute beauty and what absolute beauty is. And absolute beauty, let me tell you, is transcendence. It's in a transcendent state, and seeing the world through a transcendent state. And this for me is what philosophy is, because you're actually up in the infinite, like seeing the world through a transcendent state. But then sometimes, like yesterday, you have to come back and you have to sit in the finite. And this is what I did yesterday. I was left sitting in the finite all day, and you could say to yourself, like the likes of Vincent van Gogh, and it happens with other artists as well, that when you have to come back and sit in the finite, you say to yourself, this is bullshit. But at the same time, you know, you're a mortal being, and you belong here in the finite. Do you know what I mean? And you have to sort of learn to adjust to this, and again find balance. And maybe like that, if I was to acknowledge my own aversions, as I say, uh, what would you do if you aren't afraid? You know what I mean? But this is what I say to people. Overcome your fear of death, overcome your fears, overcome your fears. But maybe I need to overcome my own fears, which is a fear of, you know, like. As I say, like when something is taken away, like this can cause, but a lot of suffering. But maybe the whole thing is as I always say, it's not the drugs is the problem. It's the lack of self control. It's the lack of self control. And I say, like, that maybe the suffering actually comes from being over attached or clinging to someone, something, or someone. But you just have to accept, like, that while you have it, I'll enjoy it, and when it's gone, it's gone. You accept this with equanimity. Do you know what I mean? You accept this with equanimity. And if you're able to do this, if you're able to enjoy a cold drink in the sun without expecting the moment to last forever, then you won't suffer. Or if you don't try to own anybody or possess anybody, then you won't suffer, because you won't suffer from the jealousy, you won't suffer from the thing. But you see, oxytocin is abundant hormone. It's abundant hormone. It's released at childbirth, and it's released by contact. A 20-second hug will release a certain amount of oxytocin. Sex will release a certain amount, copious amounts of oxytocin, and this is a bonding hormone. And this, if you have a certain connection, this can be a very transcendent state. And maybe if you actually open yourself up to the possibility of this transcendent state, maybe you won't need any other transcendent states, and maybe a change is not such a bad thing. You know what I mean? Maybe change is not such a bad thing. Maybe you don't need the coffee, the cigarettes, the alcohol. Maybe you don't need the rest of the altered states, because as some say, like, all you need is love. But I say, but do you need love? But you need love. And then Osho that said the capacity to be alone is the capacity to love. But then like, there's not really much point in having the capacity to be alone if you're not going to utilize this experience, if you're not going to make this work for you. Do you know what I'm saying? That, like, if you don't if you reject everything so hard, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want this. When you're being given something, I don't want this. I don't want this. Are you deaf? You know what I mean? I don't want this. And this is maybe, an aversion to love, an aversion to any sort of intimacy, and an aversion to money. And maybe I need to overcome these aversions, like, because maybe they're not in my best interest. In both cases, maybe, like, because, like, maybe, like, like maybe I'm supposed to be running this hostel, like, but I'm working at this hostel, but I'm completely detached from this hostel. I'll clean it, I'll mind it, but yeah, if somebody comes in, I go so far as to say, I don't want your money. You know what I mean? I don't want your money. Like, someone came in yesterday and said, can I use the toilet? And they wanted to leave a lev for using the toilet. I said, no, I don't want your money. I don't want your money. You know what I mean? Even though I have no money. But maybe I need to overcome this aversion as well, because if I don't overcome this aversion, I can't really do what I want to do. Do you understand? So I need to overcome, like, this is why I say, that Maslow's what's actually stopping people reaching self-actualization is the deficiency needs, is clinging to these deficiency needs, to get these deficiency needs, the shoes on their feet, a relationship, bread on their table, a roof over their head, deficiency needs. And it's clinging to these deficiency needs that stops them from reaching self-actualization. And I'm teaching this, and I'm saying, like, it's the deficiency needs are stopping you reaching self-actualization because you're clinging to this and you're afraid to let go. You're afraid to lose this, which inhibits you from having anything else. But maybe I'm the direct opposite. I'm so busy refuting, like, and rejecting these deficiency needs, that Maslow is actually right. And it's and like, maybe, like, before I can actually achieve what I want to achieve, maybe I do need these deficiency needs. I'm being given a home. I'm being given money. I'm being given these things, but I'm so busy rejecting them that it's not in my best interest. If maybe I actually do need these deficiency needs before I can reach self-actualization. In other words, what I'm saying is Maslow was right, but it's another paradox in a paradoxical universe. Do you know what I'm saying? It's another paradox in a paradoxical universe. Universe is comprised of paradoxes, and what you have to do with these paradoxes, you have to find balance. You have to find balance. You have to find balance between the light and the dark. You have to find balance in everything, in all areas of life. You have to find balance. Do you understand what I'm saying? But this is why you have to find balance in your desires and aversions. Basically, your fear of suffering will cause you suffering. You know what I mean? But then I didn't realize it's a fear of suffering, because I used to call it self-control, and it is self-control, but it's maybe too much self-control. Maybe I need to find a little bit of balance and redirect my self-control. Like Diogenes was used to reject everything, so like, like he used to live under a bridge. He used to say, I don't want anything, you know what I mean? I don't need anything, I don't want anything. Keep it, I don't want it. And in order to give him anything, that to enslave him. Do you know what I mean? And then he lost his freedom, but maybe I value my freedom so much that that this is an aversion. This fear of losing your freedom. But maybe the whole thing, the whole secret, as I say, it's not the drugs, it's the lack of self-control. So what you actually need is self-control. And you have to find balance between the finite and the infinite. Like, balance between the finite and the infinite is also very, very important. And maybe the first thing you need to find is balance between the finite and the infinite, and balance between all the binary opposites. Balance between the masculine and feminine. Balance between the desires and aversions. Balance between all binary opposites. The universe is composed of binary opposites, paradoxes, ambiguities, and you need to just start finding balance. Stand back from your life and find balance. So maybe I just need to look at this and realize that change is not such a bad thing, and maybe to achieve self-actualization, I just need to find some balance. Maybe I need to, and then when I open the box, I find other things. I find maybe there's insecurities which I didn't know were there. Well, I didn't think I had any, but maybe there actually is insecurities. I might talk about that tomorrow, because I've only 3 minutes left, and I'm not going to talk 2 minutes left. I'm not going to talk about now, but there is other possible insecurities that need to be addressed. And because you can tend to take these insecurities and put them way down, and maybe and maybe this too, like this whole this level of rejection maybe actually causes you to suppress aspects of your nature. And if you suppress any aspect of your nature, as I always teach, it's going to cause you to become depressed. Now, I'm not depressed, but maybe that's because I spend so much time in the infinite. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's why, balance. Stand back from your life and find balance. So I'll do this first, and we'll see how I get on. Yeah. Good morning.